Hey guys, it's Core Ross, and today it is time to review Rainbow Six Siege Year 6. How did they do? And we do this about the same time every single year, but this one is a little bit different. Last time I was very lenient on them because of COVID and lockdowns and working from home. It must have been a pain in the ass back then. But now we're talking about this year where it has been a little bit smoother. I'm sure it's going to continue to be bumpy at times and going into the future especially as well. But this time will be a bit harder on the developers, and we'll be hitting on what I thought of this year, and we'll be obviously doing this from my perspective, my opinions. Of course, leave your opinions in the comments below. And the first thing, my big takeaway this year was we got so much unfinished stuff. It was weird. We kept getting increments of stuff. Like we got increments of the elite customization. It's not even complete at this point. We're still missing the button to customize the gadgets. And we got iterations on the HUD and the menus as well. And it felt like from someone looking outside in, it feels like there's one person working on the match replays, one person working on the HUD, one person working on the menus, one person working on the elite customization. And of course, there's overlap in all that stuff, so it might just be the same person, I don't know. But it also kind of just feels as if it's like slowly being iterated on, as if there's not many people working on it at all, which could be that they have a lot less resources to work with now because the player base, of course, has shrunk considerably, so they may just be getting less resources because Ubisoft does sit down at points and just goes, okay, this is how much you're getting to work with, this is what you're getting to work with. Of course, new games are going to get more resources. Games that are already out will get less, but I'm assuming Siege might be getting a lot less than it was. Now, again, if you're a developer and actually watching this, I could be totally wrong, but this is just my opinion of what I'm seeing from my position of zero information and just making it up and guessing what is probably going on behind the scenes. Now, I do feel I need to inject something here, and that is the amount of content in Rainbow Six Siege. Because, of course, a lot of people right now are complaining about the amount of content in Siege, and honestly, I'm perfectly happy with it. Like, one operator, 2 events, sometimes an arcade playlist is literally perfect for me with a mid-season balancing as well. Like, I'm loving that. And with my channel being, of course, mostly dedicated to Siege because I love playing it, I don't think my love for it is going to wane anytime soon. And to me, it's perfect. Like I'm really loving the amount of content. Now, like I say, I think a lot of stuff is getting added in unfinished, like the elite customization and the HUD and the menus and things. But the amount of content from you to play is pretty much perfect. Apart from arcade playlists, I had so much hope for them. I was hoping for like gun game and stuff, and they've just been really disappointing. And to the fact of where they've almost completely disappeared now. But then for the stuff that feels like it's getting more people working on it is actually the operators. Every single one of them this year was operators that I don't enjoy playing, and that's because I'm a solo player. So, for instance, Flores, who doesn't even feel like he was released this year, is very much, it's very useful for being a team player and not a gadget I would use as a solo player. Thunderbird was the next one. Again, another gadget that is actually not too bad for a solo player, but again, I think it's better with a coordinated team. And then Osa, definitely better with a coordinated team, and Thorn definitely better with a coordinated team. But what I would say is all of them felt incredibly well balanced when they were actually released. Flores felt really good, and he had like a bigger AoE when he was first on the test server, and they reduced that down, and it felt like they really got him good by the end of it. A lot of people are worried about Thunderbird, but I think she fitted in really, really well. And then Osa as well was another operator who people I think were quite worried about, but she seems to have settled in really good. And she isn't too bad actually as a solo play as well, but definitely I think she's much more a team play. And then we had Thorn, who a lot of people I think believe is too weak at the moment, but I think she's absolutely perfect. Like they could change it to be more Capcan like, where her gadget does like 20 damage but it goes off quicker and she just has more of them, but I would much prefer her to be in her very lethal state, but it's just harder to get kills with them, because I've seen surprisingly decent amount of kills with that gadget that I just wasn't expecting when it hit live. So I've been really impressed with all of the operators this year. They've all just felt useful and really well balanced, not overpowered. And although none of them really fit into my play style, that is just, a normal thing with Siege. Sometimes, there's an operator that just doesn't quite fit and I might not play them. And one of them would be Yana. So I played Yana a ton this year, and that's because she got the Gun 6 back in the first season with Crimson Heist. And the Gun 6 has just been a game changer for me. It has really made my gameplay much more enjoyable, and I've really been using it a lot in different versatile situations and just having a load of fun with it. Now let's move on to the seasonal events, because they're getting more and more important to the content of this game, I think, as they pop up. So we got the Apocalypse event, which was reasonable. I kind of enjoyed it. I liked the style of it and, you know, the Mad Max kind of feel. But the actual gameplay did feel a little bit lacking. But I'm fine for them to keep kind of experimenting and seeing what they can land on. So I did enjoy that event, and I'm glad that it, you know, showed up as season 1. Then we had the Containment event, which just, you know, this is exactly what it is. It's an advert for Rainbow Six Extraction, but it was good. It was really good. It was a enjoyable event to jump into. It kind of had maybe a bit too much similarities with the vibe to the Apocalypse event, because they were both post-apocalyptic, but it was very different style for sure. And, you know, with the, like, properly mutated operators, it was certainly a very different style from other stuff we've had before. So I actually did really enjoy that. So that was good to see. And even though, like I say, it was a giant advert for Extraction, it was honestly a well-made game mode, and I probably played it the most out of all the events this year. And I also absolutely loved playing it with the HUD off. Now, one thing that did pop up in, I think, just about every single event, maybe not the Apocalypse one, I can't remember anything, but there was exploits in every single one. And they're really slow at fixing them, which is a real pity. It takes them a very, very long time. And we're only talking maybe a week to get a fix out, but still, that's far too long. I remember the days when it used to be that games could hotfix quite easily, and it seems like that's a thing of the past. Hotfixing doesn't happen quite as much as it used to in the past, and it's a real pity that a lot of this stuff gets fixed very slowly. But of course, the player base these days is also far more toxic. Like, you will see when these event playlists come out, people don't play it for fun, they play it for their event pack. So they'll just go in just to do their challenge, and if they can get it done and get out, they will, and if they're not going to get done, they'll leave. So, for instance, the Snowball event, people would not play it for fun. They would literally just play to try and get their free pack with their challenge. That was their only goal. So, people have definitely got a little bit off, a little bit nuts when it comes to just getting like a free pack and stuff like that, or just simply winning at any cost. So, they'll use exploits and everything, even if it's purely for fun. But anyway, then we had the Showdown event return, and it was good to see this back. It was then followed up by another return event, which is Doctor's Curse, slightly modified, but, you know, pretty much exactly the same. Unfortunately, there was an exploit in it, but it made it a very painful experience for the first little bit until they fixed it. But I enjoyed the absolute crap out of playing that. It was so freaking good to have Doctor's Curse back. It was odd, though, to have 2 returning events that season. That was weird, to have Showdown and Doctor's Curse and not a new thing. But I'll certainly say it was good to have those 2 events. It's both enjoyable. Then we, of course, had the Snowball event leading up to Christmas and into the new year as well. And all of it I was really impressed with. It was a good showing of variety. It was also what a lot of people have been asking for, just different wacky game modes that really change things up. Because, of course, most of the events to begin with were just variations of Siege's gameplay. And then we had suddenly some major changes with the gameplay, and it just felt like a lot of fun and a lot of variety. So really impressed with the events this year. And it felt like there was more than one person working on those events. So yeah, very happy with that. Now we definitely have to review cosmetics, because obviously it's a huge part of the game these days. Games as a service is just got to the point where it's crazy. So the battle passes this year kind of hit and miss. There was definitely major points. Like, to me, Crystal Guard was a super disappointing battle pass, because it just felt like it was lacking half of its contents. And I think it's because they wanted to have elite customization out with all like the player cards and stuff, and then bring that in. Because we suddenly seen, for instance, with the High Caliber Battle Pass, there was also stuff in there that I'm sure was made for the actual Battle Pass before that. So I felt like the Battle Passes and stuff were kind of all over the place. Some sensational cosmetics though, like in the North Star we had some really casual outfits that were really freaking cool. Crimson Heist stuff was also casual, but less memorable for me. And I go back and look at them, I don't really remember most of them, but I remember Northstar stuff. And then for Crystal Guard, there was a few more kind of tactical looking stuff, like IQ's outfit. I was very happy with her uniform, but overall the content for that was really lacking. And then with High Caliber, the battle passes were looking alright. Of course, free cosmetics these days have shrunk down to being much more minimal. So for instance, there's no longer like any challenges where you get like even just a charm these days. And although I'm very happy not to be sitting around just collecting charms all the time, but definitely free cosmetics has slowly disappeared. Seasonal skins have slowly reduced down to minimal numbers, and we're getting just like animated skins and stuff now in the future, which is not going to be too interesting. And I do expect dances, player cards, like we have already seen actually, player cards end up in paid packs, so that you can literally spend a lot of money. Like there's 10 of them in the most recent packs, and like, oh man, that's kind of nuts, I think. And of course, I expect this monetization of Siege to just continue to increase as time goes on. Like, I remember making that video years ago where I was really worried about the monetization of Siege, and it has just continued to expand ever since then. But anyway, I think that can lead us on to the conclusion. So overall, as an entire year, I thought year 6 was not too bad. It was, to be honest, on par with year 5. But year 5, I gave them a break because I thought that COVID had affected them big time with lockdowns and stuff like that in development and having to change up their, approach. Year 6, it feels like it's the same amount of content, but that they didn't have as much stuff holding them back, or at least not stuff that was out of their control. So it feels like it's been a bit of a lackluster year, with changes being much more iterative and not in a good way. Like, not like we're just kind of slightly getting better and better. It's like they add stuff in that's not finished yet. The best example is definitely Elite customization and coming in Crystal Guard, because it was literally just the headgear was detached. It was not, to me, it was not a good way to bring it in. They should have waited till they had it completed before they brought it in. Even the High Caliber version is not complete, and I would have potentially argued that they should have even held that off a little bit longer until they finished it. But it's good to have that stuff. It just feels like it's always unfinished, and that's where we always are with Siege. It's always unfinished. Now, I would say one of the things that people hated was the new HUD. I actually ended up loving it. I did have major problems when I first seen it, and thankfully they did make some tweaks, but I really, really like it. It feels a lot better. I like the new menus as well, way faster than the old ones, although I hear that on older consoles that is not the case. It's actually slower. And other points of view as well, because like I solo queue on Siege, so which means I'm usually down at like either bottom of gold or in silver or even down in bronze. And that means I never run into cheaters. Ever. Like pretty much I never run into a cheater, which is lovely. And I'll play that in those kind of levels on console and on PC with my controller. So I'm not too fussed whether I win, whether I lose. And it means I don't run into cheaters. That's never been an issue for me ever with Siege, basically. So I know that has been a massive issue. It was a massive issue last year and this year, and I expect it to continue. But I haven't been too fussed by that because I'm not playing the kind of levels that is much of an issue. But I definitely think that's been a massive problem for everybody, and I think it's just going to continue. I'm very pessimistic about them fixing the cheating issue. But yeah, overall, I'd say about as good as last year, but they should have done better because they should have less stuff in their way. I hope that next year, the reason that it feels like there's only been a few people working on the game at points is because they're working on something big for next year. But everything takes so long with Siege, like even just the team deathmatch mode. Like we've seen in the test server, it's buggy as hell. It's like, it takes so long to get to the point where they get a final product out. And I'm very worried that it's just going to continue to be obviously the status quo. Everything just takes really long time to come out. And when it does, it's not finished yet. So yeah, that's kind of I guess that's probably the best way to end it, is that, I don't really expect, and this has been my feeling for years now with Siege, is that when we get stuff, it's just never quite finished. And the game will never really be finished. It might take them until 10 years until we get a game that maybe is slightly finished. We'll see. But anyway, guys, I think that's a basic rundown of this year and how I felt about it. But I'd love to know in the comments below what you think of this year, and what you've been enjoying, what you've not been enjoying. I'm sure there's a lot of people as well who haven't been playing. You can just let me know if you stopped this year, and yeah, or if you picked up the game this year and what you thought about it. But anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you next time.